Um, okay. So we want to kind of continue talking about Postgres. And one thing that we did, before, if you look at the videos, I showed you kind of syntax for creating tables, for inserting into tables, kind of querying tables. Let's just say selecting rows from tables. And primary keys, we talked about primary key. And, I think that's maybe it. And I want to do kind of a few more things, and then I want to have a discussion about having kind of multiple tables and connecting those tables together. So I do have a table with the name student. I'm going to actually get rid of it, and I can do that by doing drop table student. So I'm going to get rid of that table by doing this. I'm going to execute this, and you can see in a second it'll be gone. And after that, I'm going to create a new table. Let's just say let's just say, for example, restaurant. And that restaurant has a name, which is varchar. Again, I like that to be all uppercase, maybe 100, and maybe city, right? Or zip code. Let's just use city, and also varchar. Of course, we can create kind of an int column, like maybe a zip code, but that's fine. We don't need to worry about that for now. And also, let's do an ID. Again, doing an ID is necessary. By necessary, I mean it's kind of highly recommended. And I'm going to make this an int, and I'm going to make this a primary key. And I'm seeing that some of you has a question, but let me kind of execute this one first. Let me look at the chat, see if. Okay, so let me execute this one, and then I'll get back to the chat window. So I'm going to just highlight this, and I'm going to play. And as you can see, the table is being created again. It'll take a second. Here, I can double click here, and I can start kind of putting values. Of course, I can use the GUI here, or I can use SQL. So someone is asking, if you use lowercase, it's fine. So lowercase is perfectly fine. Again, it's better to use uppercase for those kind of keywords, but if you use lowercase for something like varchar, that's fine. Okay, now if you want to insert into restaurant, I think the way we've done it is like this. There are many ways, of course, to do it. One way would be to say ID, name, and city, and then you say values, and between parentheses, you give it the value. Say one, I don't know, what's the name of a restaurant? Maybe say, do you guys like some restaurants in Charlotte? I don't think I know many restaurants in Charlotte. Let's say Taco Bell. Okay, all right, Taco Bell, and say the city is going to be Charlotte. Of course, Taco Bell is in many different cities, but let's say we just want to do this, and this will work, right? If you play this, it'll work fine. And if you open restaurant, you will see that we have this. Now, there's another thing that maybe I didn't show you how to do, and that is not to specify or to not specify all the columns. That's actually perfectly fine. So we can insert into restaurant, and maybe we want to do an ID. We actually have to do an ID because ID is a primary key. And if you don't specify it, it's going to be like null, which is kind of nothing, and that's not going to work for primary keys. So we need ID, but let's say we just want the name and we don't want the city. And here I'm going to say the ID is 2 maybe, and the name is going to be, say, Noble Smoke. I don't know, that restaurant, let's say Noble Smoke, like this. And if you execute this one, it's not going to give a value to city. And it's perfectly fine, actually, in this case. So if you do this and if you hit play, it's going to work. And if you go to restaurant, you can see that it worked and the city was null. That's perfectly fine. So that I think I haven't done in the past. So someone is asking, how can we make the ID auto increment? So there's actually a way to make ID, this primary key, kind of auto increment, because maybe you don't want to kind of specify those 1, 2, 3. And there's a way to do that. I actually recorded a video on Monday that talks about that, which I'm going to post as part of this week's material. So on Monday, I had a session with the other section, and we talked about a few things, including to create kind of a primary key that kind of auto increments. So that'll be, I'll post that video. And if you have questions about that, you can just reach out to me or ask me next week. Okay. All right, guys. So I just wanted to kind of show you this. Now I want to have a discussion about having multiple tables in your database and how you kind of create relationships. And I want to stop the recording and start a new one.